Hey, Adams, how are you?
Hey,
How's vacation so far?
a lot of work.
Jeez.
Yes. Two blog posts. If you
Yeah,
didn't see them,
I saw.
uh,
I think I saw at least one of them.
no. Today I've posted
Another
another
one.
one. Yes,
Yes.
again based on Twitter conversation. Uh, when someone literally said that I have no clue in ADCS.
I'll show you.
Awesome.
I'll show you. Yes.
uh, but eventually everything was solved, and surprisingly, I was correct.
Well, of course you were.
Surprised to who, Adams?
Huh?
Who was it? I wasn't. I wouldn't be surprised. You weren't surprised.
Okay. 7
All
seconds.
right.
6,
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome. Oh my gosh, it is office hours again. Welcome, everybody. Looks like we have a few people joining in. It is August 2021, and we are on episode 8. I had to look up like what episode number we are on. Did you guys realize that this is the big phenomenal 8?
I did. We get that big bonus if we make it to 12.
Is there?
Yeah.
Who's paying that one?
I don't know.
Well, it's kind of interesting looking back on the fact that we started this last year. We probably should be on 12 by now, but we kind of slacked off a little bit, and I think it was kind of the latter part of the summer. But welcome to Office Hours. If this is your first time joining, you get to waste an hour with us as we talk about PKI, random things about the team. Maybe we'll even get to a question or two that people in the audience have. I don't know. Jake, do you feel like answering questions today, or do we just let them sit there and watch us?
As long as they're softballs. My brain's not into anything real hard today.
All right. We'll make them really easy. What is Riva saying? She is driving, and she have you pulled over to the side to be able to tune in, Riva? I actually had a conference call with somebody yesterday, and she goes, "I'm not the driver." All right, so this is even better. You're in the passenger seat of a car, and you're like, "I can't miss office hours." So no, I'm sure back seat with the dog. All right. Well, it started off much better, when you were going to pull over the side of the road to Starbucks to listen to us. But if you're in the back seat with the dog, you've got it easy, Reba. So for office hours, we don't have any PowerPoints. We don't have any set agendas. We've got PKI to chat about. We've got a few interesting things to go through. We'll obviously take your questions. I know a few people have sent some things in ahead of time. But I think probably the most pressing thing at hand is the fact that Adams has been a busy blogger of late. And we were actually just talking about this before we went live. And of course, Adams, the thing is you're on vacation right now, are you not? You're also on mute. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm on vacation, but still work. Don't let me get off.
That's not me. That's not, it's like we said, you could take vacation and, well, actually, maybe we should do that. Here's vacation. You don't get paid, but you got to keep doing work. I like the idea of this.
Adams is always working. I won't email him at night because he will respond. So I try not to bother him after hours because he will respond.
Yeah, he will. It's funny. He reminds me of Vic Keller when I was at Microsoft. And if people don't know who Vic is, he's the original principal developer of certificate services. And Vic, an interesting story. We've talked about him here on Office Hours before. He was actually part of the original team of 12 that developed Windows. If you go look up the history of Windows, the Windows executive, like before Windows 1.0, the Windows executive team, which was what the product was originally called, it was Bill Gates, Vic Keller, and like 11 other people. And it's kind of crazy to see him. And then, when certificate services came around, he was with that product from inception until he retired. And, most people at Microsoft would move on to be a manager, a director, a partner, or whatever. He stayed a principal developer. Like, there's just something he loved about it. But what I loved about him, and the parallel I'm drawing to Vadam's, is the fact that the guy never slept at all. I could email him anywhere in the world I was. And no, I was always like, I think I troubleshot this as best as I could. I documented this. I got this log or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure I've stumped him. I'm sure I have stumped Vic. He's going to come back and go, oh my God, Mark, you found something. And I'd email him, and like 20 minutes later, it's like, all right, Mark, here's what you missed. Here's the source code. Here's what you got. It's like 2 a.m. It's like that with Vadam's. It's like whenever something comes up, he's never sleeping. So Vadam's, other than blogging, which we'll come back to, have you done anything fun on your vacation so far?
Just resting.
Between the blogs. So tell us about the blogs that you have put out this week and why you did them. I love this story.
So this week I wrote two blog posts. Both are based on conversations on Twitter. So first one was about someone said that there is no way in Microsoft CA to generate a certificate with some predefined serial number. Yes, you can't modify serial number generation algorithm, and a couple of months ago, I wrote a blog post which explains how Microsoft CA generates serial numbers to make them unique and more random. And there is no UI or registry tweak where you can allow CA to generate a certificate with a serial number you need. Original Twitter thread was about certificate revocation, but I've extended this blog post to a disaster recovery scenario when your backup doesn't include all certificates that were issued after a last backup was taken, and when CA failed, and you had to recover your CA from backup. And you may have a list of issued serial numbers through many means, for example, using SMTP exit module, maybe archived event logs, and or OCSP folder. And there is a trick with Certitude where you can request CA to create a dummy certificate with a serial number you supply in. And then you can use Certitude or PSPKI to import that certificate to a CA database, and then you can revoke it if necessary.
What I love about this is essentially this whole thread wound up being about one of the lessons in our courses. So in our advanced course, we've been covering this for years of how you can create a dummy cert, give it a serial number, stick it in your CA database, and then revoke it if you need to. Or in our case, we had as part of a CA data recovery, the scenario Adams just talked about. Use SMTP exit module, everything that gets issued, send it off to some unmonitored mailbox, and then if you need to recover, you can create this dummy one. So there's a lot more to this story than, I think this kind of came up as a result of some of the recent exploit stuff that was out there, right, Adams, of why people wanted to be able to create these dummy certs?
Yes, but I'm not sure that this approach is correct. If your CA is compromised, then you have to revoke entire CA and all certificates down the chain.
Well, I think the interesting thing for me, and we'll get to some of these exploits in a little bit, but the exploits themselves don't necessarily all require the CA to be compromised. It could just be a typical CA that is configured in a way the keys aren't getting lost, but things are getting issued that they shouldn't. That if it's detected, you could certainly remediate your way out of it. Ultimately, then the question is, okay, are we able to identify everything that's happened there? So there is probably some questionable things there. But I think the disaster recovery is a great example of being able to do this.
And just to add, I didn't see your course, so I wasn't cheating. It was original content from me.
Yeah. So here's the interesting thing then. If you want, I actually had a conversation with Vic years ago when I was creating this. There is something that you can do, cert util and creating these dummy certs with Server 2016 and newer that you can't do before. And we actually have a little batch file that we use in the course where in the older versions of cert util, like you were showing, you can request a specific serial number, but you can't do a whole lot more than that. With the newer versions, you could even specify the subject name you want in the cert, the serial number, the valid from, and the expiration date of the certificate. So you can add many more properties in and almost kind of recreate the certificate if you have those details, which if you're doing the SMTP exit module, you would. It's not necessary to revoke it. We only need the serial number. But if you're doing disaster recovery and you're just trying to populate without the intent of revoking, you at least have a little more detail that you can add back in if you needed to.
Yes, and I want to make a little correction that when you specify a serial number, you can't specify any other options, and it is written in a certutil document that if a serial number parameter is specified, then all others must be omitted.
And that's what I'm saying is in the 2016 version, you can. So we'll find time on your vacation to take the course. Someday we'll figure out how to get you intelligent around certificate services. I don't know, but yeah, you're absolutely right. For a long time, you couldn't do that. So yeah, lots of little nuances that are in there. So great one there. That's up on the site now. And then you just put out another blog today because you're like, what the heck? I'm on vacation. So
let's make Jake look even worse.
Yeah, Jake, I'm looking through the list of blogs here.
Yeah.
There's Adams. Yeah.
It's impossible working with Adams. If he does, I like to sleep every once in a while, but he doesn't need to apparently.
Yeah. So today's.
And another blog post again is based on a Twitter conversation when someone has suggested to enable ADCS audit options in CA configurations to get more insights on what happens in your CA. But that tweet didn't mention that ADCS audit configuration consists of two parts. First one is audit filter in CA configuration in registry, and another you have to enable certificate services audit in group policies or in local policies. If any of them isn't enabled, then no audit will be logged in security event log. A tweet author claimed that GPO isn't required, and moreover, he says that if you enable certificate services audit in GPO, it will automatically set audit filter in CA configuration to a max value. That tweet got more than 100 retweets, a lot of likes. I didn't get any of my tweets which could get more than 10 retweets. I had to write another blog post which explains in details on how to configure ADCS audit option and how to read it.
Perfect. So I am curious. So I'm just looking through this now. So what can you talk about when it comes to this second setting that you recommended, the force audit policy subcategories?
Well, it isn't much required because it is enabled by default. But the idea is that GPO audit consists of several categories. For example, object access, account login, system changes, and so on. And every category is split to subcategories. For example, if you enable object access audit, then your security log will be blotted very quickly with a lot of irrelevant audit entries, and due to the fact that security log size is quite limited. Then entries you are looking for may be overwritten very quickly. In 2012, Microsoft added a feature in GPO editor to configure only object access audit only on subcategory level. So you don't need to enable entire object access audit. Instead, you can enable only object access audit on certificate services subcategory. Under security options, there is a GPO entry which enables granular subcategory audit setting processing. Also, it is enabled by default, but I recommend to enable it explicitly in the case if a setting is overridden using some script. Yes, and you don't see the changes just in GPO. So you yes, and if you enable that subcategory processing setting, then it will overwrite a registry setting and will overwrite it every time GPO is applied.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I think we'll probably have to reevaluate. I don't think in our standard deployment, we typically do this force audit policy one, Jake. So this will be interesting to see. I don't think we've had problems, but if it really does kind of make sure that the audit setting goes back into place, which is always an important thing, that'll be a good one. So nice job, Adams. All right. Well, I think we had a question come in. Let me pop over here. Henry asked this one. I'll throw this out to either of you guys. So Henry was asking, is there a way to audit templates for requester supplies subject and who and what can request from those templates? So I think this is less of an audit question and more kind of, can I query for which templates are set to supply in the request and who has permissions for those? Any thoughts on that one, guys?
Well, yes, you can do first, certainly. For example, use PSPKI. Where you can filter
of course.
certificate templates which allow user supplied subject. I can post a comment a bit later how to do this, and who what can request from those templates. It is a bit broad question because permissions are often applied in to security groups that can contain a lot of other groups from same domain, from other domains, and this task is quite hard. But if you want to check only ACL on the certificate template, then fire get a certificate template, pipe get a certificate template ACL command. Both are from PSPKI module, and you will get ACL settings.
All right, so PSPKI is basically the answer. Jake, I'm sure you were going to say the same thing, right?
Yeah, but so depending on who I'm working with, sometimes I'll just ask them just to do a dump of the certs and go through them, and then I can narrow in on those certificate templates in question and start getting more particular on the ones that that we're looking for that might have those settings. So that's what I will usually do if they don't have PKI module loaded.
Yeah, you would just use like the cert util -ca template to get the template properties, that kind of thing.
Yep, or even the DS template to anything that's out in AD, the directory store, and get that and bring it back. Then you have a kind of a standard list.
Okay.
It dumps pretty quick.
Yeah, so I guess it ultimately probably depends on the scope. If you've got PSPKI or you're willing to put it in, then great. Download it. You can do this and a whole lot more. If you're in a place where you can't install it, or perhaps you're a consultant and you're working with a customer's environment and you really can't make changes, you may be limited out of the box. So cert util -ca template, or the other way that you could do it, it's not as pretty, but doing something like CSV-DE, where you can dump AD properties into a CSV file or an LDIF-DE. You can look at the properties. The ACLs aren't nearly as pretty because they're all in ACL encoded format. So a couple of different ways, and I think this probably leads into some of the other stuff that's out there. But with that, I was going to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the recent publicity around to call them ADCS exploits is a bit of a misnomer. They're really Active Directory security exploits that take advantage of perhaps a less than ideally configured CA. The most recent one was around the petit podum, and essentially this is probably as close to an ADCS exploit as there is, where a attacker could leverage the web enrollment site or SESCEP to wind up getting a Kerberos ticket as a domain controller, and then the game over at that point. It ultimately kind of comes down to an issue with those two specific services. So if you have the certificate authority web enrollment site, this is the old style ASP web page where you could manually go, you authenticate, you can either cut and paste a CSR file, or you can do some very limited amount of enrollments. That is affected, as well as the certificate enrollment web service, which is the unwisely chosen name for the alternate enrollment protocol from DCOM RPC. This one is where you can do enrollments for machines not in Active Directory, and you have different types of enrollment options. But one of those includes usernames and passwords. So essentially, this all boils down to if either of those are set for NTLM / username and password, this exploit can be taken advantage of. And Jake, I know we've had a number of questions with customers about this so far. And the big thing always seems to be Microsoft recommendation. There's a few things. One was just turn off NTLM, which I think they've been saying for 20 years now. Oh, just turn off NTLM. If you really think about it, NTLM is the Windows NT local manager. I mean, NTLM is left over from Windows NT, and Kerberos has been out ever since like Server 2000. But people still have not moved off of NTLM. I would hazard a guess there's not a single person listening to this right now that is running in a pure Kerberos environment. Have you seen any?
No, and honestly, it's one of those. It's the great unknown. I think when we had these conversations after on that Monday, everyone is scared to pull that lever because they're not sure to really truly turn it off.
I don't remember, but for sure. But as far as I remember, when I set up a VPN server on TMG firewall with Radius authentication, then it required NTLM enabled on the main controllers. You could upgrade it to NTLM v2, but without NTLM, it didn't work. Disable NTLM in entire environment, I don't think it is really possible.
Yeah, right. Well, it probably depends on the environment, and it's like for years Microsoft was trying to get rid of WINS. Before when LAN manager and then NT, and we had PDCs and BDCs, and we needed WINS for all this stuff to work, and then WINS stuck around for another 20 years. NTLM is kind of the same thing. We have products that are out there, but Jake, I know we've had customers that have been kind of asking about these. No, Kerberos only or the EAP. It's been a lot of what's the impact, right?
Right, and you're mentioning that it's not been a static document from Microsoft. Microsoft has kind of changed their recommendation as we've gone along here, because initially it was turn it off, turn it all off. But now they've kind of fallen back a little bit. So.
They now seem to have kind of reordered things in this. So this is the Microsoft KB 5005413, and this is kind of where they put out their remediation recommendations. At one point, they were like, okay, here's the 3 or 4 things you can do in the following order. And number one was disable NTLM. I think there were a lot of people that was like, all right, you're just talking crazy now. But the number one option is now leaving NTLM in and turning on what they call extended protection authentication. So it's a some way of augmenting the NTLM. And Adams, do you have any visibility in what exactly this extended protection thing is doing for NTLM? Because I don't know if I've gotten a great answer to what this magical dropdown is doing for us.
I don't know.
Joe says it's like Kerberos armoring. So yeah, but it's.
But this extended protection is required only if you use that legacy NTLM. But if you change Windows authentication properties in IIS web application to negotiate Kerberos, then you don't need to enable that extended protection. So you enable Kerberos only for this specific web application, and I've tested in my environment. It does work. So I would switch Windows authentication setting to negotiate Kerberos.
Yeah,
it should work.
Yeah, and just kind of digging through there, essentially following one article to another, and it finally links to an article from 2009. It says extended protection implements a protocol based on 5056, use of channel bindings to secure channels. So there's probably a lot of interesting magic there, but I think in the end, the nut of the whole thing is, most customers are going to have to leave NTLM enabled. The resolution is enabling this extended protection authentication mechanism. If you're in one of those mythical places where you can do Kerberos only, great, do Kerberos only. There were a few things that we had been communicating to customers that there are some potential impacts if you're doing aliases to get to the web enrollment site. Like some customers will have HTTPS whack certs, rather than having the host name. In that case, if you're doing Kerberos needs service principal names to go to. If you're doing it just to server 01/cert, you're fine because the computer already has an SPN. So there are some impacts if you do say, hey, yeah, we can switch this over to Kerberos. Great. Just make sure that you're thinking a little bit about those SPNs.
Yes, and we have talked about this with Jake some time ago, and we ended up with idea that it isn't only web enrollment or web enrollment services vulnerability. Actually, any application that uses integrated authentication and do user impersonation is affected by this vulnerability. So if you have a custom web application which uses integrated authentication and do user impersonation, then you should patch it as well.
Yeah. So and then the interesting thing is this follows in on the paper that was released in June that we've talked about the last time around, the lateral movement, where an attacker could essentially take advantage of templates that are set for supply and request and do name mappings and elevate themselves into domain admin or enterprise admin. The CA itself isn't compromised. It was just running and offering things up. So, the interesting thing is I love the fact that that people are caring enough to at least figure out ways to break this and work with certificate services. It just means that there's a lot of love out there for PKI and certificate services. It makes me happy. If anything, when you look at these researchers that are doing these things, there's a reason they do it. They go, wow, this stuff is in a lot of environments. There's a lot of certificate services. There's a lot of web enrollments. I wonder if we could exploit this. I wonder if we could find that. If it was a unicorn where there was 2 companies left in the world that did it and they didn't do anything interesting. Yeah, Joe, you're right. It's low hanging fruit. It's everywhere. And when you love certificate services and PKI like I do, you're just happy your children are getting attention, and you're getting a note from the teacher. They don't always do the good things, but the great thing is here. Honestly, it's not the PKI that is at risk. I mean, these vulnerabilities in the case of the web enrollment comes from an IIS configuration. There's certificate services. Web enrollment works perfectly fine with Kerberos. Just so happens that IIS installs with NTLM. The lateral moving exploit, that's a bad AD. Somebody has to get in, be able to do name mappings and other sorts of things. So, if you use certificate services, you need to do it the right way. You need to keep it secure.
I found when talking to clients on this, it was one of the things where they started to basically question, are we even using this any longer? It's been there for a while, and several of our clients are just decided we don't need it. Because they already have a CLM in place or something.
Or if you really kind of look at what the web enrollment site can do for you now, it used to be a place where you could do user-based certificate enrollments and generate keys. And, this was back in the early IE days and ActiveX controls. And then that all got stripped away and you can't generate keys. All you can do is submit CSRs, or if it's a user enrollment, we can do that, but we can't do interactive computer. So it's kind of been stripped back. And I don't know about you guys, but it seems like most customers now use it just as a portal where they take a CSR and they submit it to the CA. Like that. That seems like 99% of, I've got this appliance over here, I need a place to submit it to the CA. And I'm like, you can do that with cert rec,
Right.
cert rec -submit. You're done. You don't need this page. So maybe right. One of the other recommendations should have been just get rid of the web enrollment site. But not everyone has a CLM product or something, but
right.
There's limited amount of functionality there.
True. That's true.
All right. Let's see. I see something popped up over in Q&A and it's gone. All right. Great. We must have answered the question for me. Let's see, what else do I have here? A couple of new things. We have some new people that have joined the team recently. They're not camera ready yet. We got to get them the PKI solutions, shaving routine, which by the way, if you haven't noticed, I am now pre-COVID. The beard is now gone.
And the t-shirt delivering.
Exactly. Yeah, we need to start getting some shirts out there. The funny thing is I had grown this little COVID thing and I hadn't intended to get rid of it. And I went and saw my barber and it had been way too long in seeing him. And he had a family matter and got postponed. So it was about 2.5 months. I was starting to kind of really get shaggy when I was going in. And I think he was a little depressed the day I was there still. He was not in his best shape. And I wound up with a very misshapen haircut when I left. and suddenly the beard did not work. So I go, okay, I guess I'll just shave it off. And no one in the family noticed for the whole afternoon. No one was like, wow, it's been a year that you've had that, Mark. But they eventually came around. My son was the best. The whole time he was like, Daddy, I don't like the rough. I want you back to the smooth skin. So I shave it off and he goes, no, I liked it. Why'd you do that?
Yeah. It's a double standard. For mine, they say it's too gray when it's there. And when it's gone, they're like, you look better with it. You can't win.
Pricklies. Yes, exactly. So we'll see what happens next month. But we have 2 new people that have joined the team. We have Nick, who joined as our Skunkworks program manager. We're not quite ready to talk about what we're up to there, but we've got some really interesting stuff that Adams has been working on. It's got me, excited about work for the first. No, that's not true. I've been excited about this for a long time, but it's something really truly amazing that I can't wait till we've got something that we can bring to bring to light. So Nick is joining us from Microsoft as our program manager. We also have a new consultant that started with us this week, Brian. So we were actually just talking before the session started, Jake, about whether we should bring Brian on. And what was it that you said?
I said cutting some slack for the first time. Basically, yeah.
Well, no, we'll see if he's trained up and presentable next time. I think he's got a little bit of the stubble going, so we might need to get him through the clean shaven. We can't have any ungroomed people coming on camera and talking about PKI. That's just unsightly.
Mark calls it the Tennessee tuxedo. If I
that's right. There have been days that you've had the Tennessee tuxedo. It remind me again what that was. That was all denim, right?
No, that's
a Canadian.
It was when it's cooler outside. It was a hat and a sweatshirt.
That's right, a hat and a sweatshirt. Yeah,
Tennessee tuxedo.
Yeah. And then
to avoid any confusion, unfortunately, we didn't get Brian Comer.
I'm not even sure Brian is working anymore. I think he has retired, and I don't know. Maybe he's still out there. Maybe he's even just listening over here, and he's just looking for some PKI fun. We do have how many more do we have? We got we got 3 more open positions right now. We've got another consultant position that's open. So maybe in the next month or two, we'll have more than just the 3 people. I'm sure no one wants to hear us talk anymore.
They want to hear VADAMs. They love to hear VADAMs.
Yeah, Joe, I don't care, Atlanta, anywhere. It's generally kind of a U.S. thing simply because of contracts that we have. But yeah, we're all spread out. None of us work near each other, and we don't have to smell each other, which is always a good thing as well. And then we've got a marketing person we're looking to bring on, and then a developer, because apparently VADAMs can't do it all himself. I don't know what that's all about. No, but yeah, we need more. It's a great time. So team has grown, good thing. The other thing I thought we could talk a little bit about, and I'd be interested to see what other people are doing. But Jake, it seems that we've been getting a lot of customers kind of rethinking what their long-term strategy is with PKI. And I know we're doing deployments with we've got 3 deployments going right now. But we've been seeing a lot of customers coming to us saying, we've been on a managed solution. We've been doing a hosted solution. We've been doing X. We've been doing Y. And now we want to figure out if we're going in the right direction. Do we want to stay on this? Do we want to deploy our own? Do we want to go to the cloud? What do you think is driving some of that?
I think some of the barriers that used to never really be seriously contemplated, like HSM in the cloud, we're starting to look a little more closely at it. We have a couple implementations right now of Entrust as a service, which we didn't. I don't think it used to get the attention maybe that deserved, or maybe the service wasn't fully baked or out there. But that's coming around. We're seeing partial cloud deployments of the PKI, reaching out to so I think it's just barriers and people maybe expanding their thinking a little bit, or these technologies getting proved out a little bit more, and as long as they're not first.
And it seems like more and more that people have something relating to cloud. Like it's not just we want to put something in the cloud. It's we have things in AWS or Google or Azure, and visibility. And you were kind of just talking to me about that earlier,
right,
of a customer wanting visibility within a lifecycle product of what they're doing in the cloud.
Right. That if you're hosting your servers with Azure or AWS, they can be certed by that service, but those certs don't come out of the cloud. So finding that fine line of understanding or knowing what's going on in both on-prem and those, keeping track of it. Same thing with HSMs. You can utilize their HSMs if it's hosted in their cloud space, but not outside. So we're still finding ways around that, and maybe latency doesn't allow it to be brought back internal all the time. So just looking at new solutions, I think is kind of driving a lot of it.
Yeah, and I see some comments where people are talking about Entrust. Entrust is one of those managed options. We have customers that are moving off of it. We have customers that have it and are talking to us about what they should do. It's actually interesting. I had a conversation with Cindy Provin, who was originally the president at Incypher. They were bought by Entrust Data Card. They're now Entrust, and we were talking about some other stuff. And I go, it seems like we're getting a rash of Entrust customers that are coming and saying, we've been on the platform for a while. We want to figure out what to do. And I think part of it is I found out that some of their on-prem solution stuff is changing or going away, and it's only the managed option. We're also seeing Entrust or frankly, any of these managed options. One of the things that happens is over years, customers start doing more things with certs. And when you're paying a per cert price, the price goes up. It's going to start with limited use cases today. Maybe I'm paying $100,000. It's not so bad. But 5 years from now, I'm now paying $1 million because I'm doing a lot more with certs.
Right. Yeah. We've seen that on a couple different clients where that cost, it just keeps growing and growing. And it's painful for a while. And then when you take a step back, you realize that there are other options. And
there's never like a perfect solution for any customer. It like everyone is individual, and it's always kind of pros and cons of, if you're on a managed solution, it's not all panacea of going to on-prem, because one of the things that you got to do was not have to manage the infrastructure, not to have maybe a CLM product. You didn't have to have expertise. You didn't have to have facilities and monitoring. So you paid someone else to do that. That's essentially what the management is. Right. But at the same time, you really had nothing at the end of the day. Your contract is up, and I'm doing a deployment now for a large bank, and they're coming off of Entrust. And Entrust essentially said, and I'm sure any provider, so this is not meant as a beat up Entrust managed discussion, simply the management approach. They said, hey, at the end of your contract, we're going to revoke all your certs and shut everything down. So there isn't even necessarily a graceful cutover for them. They're like, we have to have everything reissued before our contract is up. So, when you do a PKI as a service or a managed PKI, you only have a PKI as long as you pay the contract. Your certs are only good for that amount of time. When you do your on-prem, it could last 50 years, 100 years, as long as you maintain the thing. Things just don't go away. But it'll be interesting to see if this is something unique just in last year and this year or the next couple of years. But it seems like an uptick, and I think we've been seeing more customers choosing to do deployments as a result. I'm just trying to think about the three that we're doing right now. I don't think, other than the one I'm doing that's coming off of Entrust, I think the other two are kind of evolutions from existing on-prems, right?
Yeah, and yes, and integrating with HSMs, and I think the understanding or having that skill base around HSMs has always been kind of a hurdle to bring those into the environment, and that's where the HSM as a service is appealing. I think you don't have to have someone who has deep HSM experience or or knowledge, you're getting that along with, the service. So.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that I thought we could touch on a little bit was just the continuing issues that we see around manufacturer documentation and the PKI Hall of Shame, as I often refer to it. And we see this everywhere. Some of it is the age-old thing of Citrix federated authentication, the FAST service. So we've touched on that a little bit. I've blogged about that. The persistent documentation that comes out where some engineer has said, okay, let's get our product to work. They put certificate services in a lab and they just start clicking buttons.
Right.
Is this ever going to end? Are we ever going to get good documentation from manufacturers on how PKI really should work with their stuff?
We were talking with a client recently, and it seems like the same companies tend to offend continually. They're habitual offenders, but the idea of a next type PKI and granting and just blowing holes in it wide open to give everything and anything as much access as they want or need, to lay their product down. Is you still see it. We just saw it recently. Doesn't appear to be changing. They see it as a stepping stone, but boy, it's a big hole. You just introduced.
And then the other one is, you were mentioning a little earlier today of one of the CLM products that we work with is, they can't even keep pace with their own product as far as keeping documentation up to date.
Yep. Yeah, that's a tough spot to be in when your product is doing well enough that you can't grow with it fast enough to, and that ends up being a letdown, and it's tough to stay current with that when you can't get current documentation
and that's what I love about Vadams. This little thing that we've got underway, the beauty of what he has in GitHub and the documentation of everything that is there. I commend Vadams for his persistent documentation, and I wish we could kind of clone that and go to manufacturers. I know that we oftentimes will tell our customers, before you blindly follow documentation from even big names, Cisco, VMware, you name it, please just come ask a question. Please let us review these things. Just because there's a document that says click here to enable all application purposes doesn't mean that's a good thing. And it's only worse with these things like what was the one that we just saw? It was like VMware, and another one of these, they want to be a subordinate CA. And then and they're
huge. It
is
single sign-on and subordinate CAs. Like that's been a huge area of growth and questions. And if you follow along, blindly there with faith, it can lead you to a bad place.
And it's not like they've got a great track record of hey, we've always done things the right way with certificates, so trust us now that we want to be a subordinate CA. It's just not good. Right. I wish that there was a way that we could effectively, somehow put out warnings around bad documentation from customers. I think there was even one that I had a little bit of a Twitter a couple of months ago, and it turned out to be something from Venafi. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but the Venafi documentation said something like, here's how to save your HSM protected keys outside of the box. There's some kind of crazy nuance. And they wrote back and they said, well, what do you think it should say?
Tell us exactly the steps you would do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, why don't you tell me what you're really trying to do? And it's an interesting thing. I have respect for Venafi and other companies, but somehow Venafi, they won't talk to us. I mean, that's the big trade secret here. Venafi does not want to work with us. And here's the only thing I've been able to pick up is we're not beholden to one provider. We will work with customers. We bring multiple options to the table. Every customer has a different need. And more often than not, the Venafi guys say, you work with our competitors. And I go, and I just want to go, well, I work with your customers too. And if you don't want to be the one that comes to the table, what are you afraid of? Like, why are you not okay with a subject matter expert sitting down to a table with a customer and saying, what do you need? Okay, here are options to look at. Why do you not want to be in that comparison?
Right. Yeah.
But no love lost.
Well, yeah. It is what it is.
Well, we're going to be wrapping up here shortly. So if you've been holding on to those questions, anything that we haven't been able to already pick out your brain, let us know. I'll watch the Q&A here. Lastly, I'm going to spring this one on Vadams. Last time I joked about how we're going to play Get to Know Vadams. Did everybody see the eye shift there? He's like, uh-oh, what did I get into?
Yep. Yes. Yeah.
All right. So Vadams, I know that you are a particular fan of a certain type of sporting event. And if I'm not mistaken, I can even see the top of a logo on your shirt right now. And that, I think it's a P, and it's not for PKI Solutions. So if people really want to get to know you, tell us about your favorite sport and what you're wearing right now. Tell us what you're wearing.
Well, my favorite sport is, of course, ice hockey. And I'm a fan of one of NHL teams. I don't tell which one.
Do you just want to maybe go like this? Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. We'll just have to infer from that. And I believe that you are such a fan that you have even enlisted Jake to go shopping for you.
No, that was all me. I thought I was doing a nice thing, and I ended up costing Vadams a bunch of money. I sent Vadams a jersey. I had no idea that customs and the taxes, he paid as much as I did by the time I was over with for the jersey, and I didn't know that. So I've subsequently learned I won't be sending Vadams anything like that any longer without his approval first, of course.
Yeah, is there like do we like maybe take those things and wrap them inside of crochet or like inside of cookies? Like what's got the cheapest import tax into Latvia, or is everything just automatically? Can we not just say it's a Phillies Flyer shirt and say it's worth $1? I mean, who's going to believe that it's worth more than $1? Uh-oh, we lost his audio.
Wiggle your jack there.
Is that the technical process?
It does that sometimes.
He doesn't just have to wiggle his head to get to it.
No.
So we'll while he's working on his stuff, I think you talked to Vadams quite a bit about hockey. Does he play?
No, he obviously prefers the Flyers. Carolyn, our sales, they go back and forth quite a bit.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. No, Vadams, we can't hear you for some reason.
Yeah.
Normally, when we're on calls like this, if he wiggles his mic, it comes back. But no, Vadams is more aware of the hockey than we are, and he's following it. But when his team is out, he's out. That's it. There's no more reason to follow it. No more reason to talk about it. When they're done, it's done.
Like do you schedule your calls around when games are being broadcast so that he'll actually, or is he kind of like okay, Jake?
No. We've never gotten into it. I live outside of Nashville, the Predators, but I'm not a diehard. I don't only watch the Predators.
Yeah. I'm starting to think that this is all set up by Adams. I find it interesting that his microphone worked the entire show.
Sure.
And then we get to the end and we play Get to Know Adams and we start talking about hockey. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, microphone no work. It doesn't work. Sorry.
I could paint whatever a picture I want right now of Adams. I can tell everyone how Adams really is here.
Yeah. If I knew more about hockey, I could kind of diss the Flyers and maybe say San Antonio. I don't know whatever the big rivalry is with the Flyers. I really don't know, but yeah. The Flyers suck. There we go. We'll just put it out there.
Now
yeah. No, I know. Now he's not going to talk to me for a week and a half. And he's going to go on vacation. Wait, he is on vacation. That's right. Well, I think. Did we get one question? And that's not a question, Bill. Bill said, "Thanks for being our anchor of truth." You're welcome. You're welcome. You could have phrased it as a question. We could do it Jeopardy style.
There's your next T-shirt.
Yeah, there you go. Well, here's the great thing. Since Adams had the technical difficulty, guess what we get to play next month? We get to play this all over again, and he's going to have to think of a whole new excuse of why he can't. I think the headphones are going to go bad.
Don't send him an expensive pair because it will cost him.
I was just going to say that, we could probably
it.
send him $100 pair and be $200 in import tax to buy it there. Yeah. I have a feeling I'm going to get a phone call with a working microphone from right after this. Well, we did manage to once again achieve our mighty awesome goal of wasting a whole bunch of people's hour talking about PKI. It is. I love this. There are enough people who love this space that they're like, you know what? I have an hour to kill listening to a bunch of stupid people talking about PKI. But thank you so much for joining in. I have no idea what we'll talk about next month. No, I'm sure it'll be something pressing, something amazing, something PKI. Maybe we'll even talk about Jake's latest Red Bull fascination. I don't know what's happening in the world of
Somebody
Red Bull.
has to have a tie with Red Bull. Like they won't talk to me. I've asked for all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Somebody has to have a tie with Red Bull.
We should go for this because I've actually seen the Red Bull headquarters in Austria. I think that would be an awesome. I'm sure Red Bull needs a PKI. So, Mr. Red Bull,
pro bono.
We will give you a free PKI in exchange for a trip to Austria, and Jake may need a lifetime supply of Red Bull. But
and dialysis. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that stuff is cheap for them. I mean that is below cost, although it'll be a constant supply truck to your front door.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks everyone for tuning in. We will be back next month with episode 9 of Office Hours. We'll be taking your questions via email. In the meantime, we're also going to be exploring whether we can make this available via podcast and other platforms as well. So if there's particular places where you get your podcasts or you somehow want to listen to the same thing over again, then let us know what platform is interesting to you. And we'll see everybody next month. So have a great August, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Adams, is your microphone working now? he's gonna keep it all the way through.
I thought for sure that was gonna be.
Bye-bye.